Hey everybody, Kartik Subramaniam over at ADHI Schools. Welcome to our podcast. I wanted to take a second to talk about a gift that I received about 10 years ago from a hero of mine named Bruce Mulhern. Now, Bruce Mulhern is the broker owner for Berkshire Hathaway Home Services in Cerritos. Bruce has like 20 offices, 1,000, 2,000 agents. It almost doesn't matter. I mean, he has a huge real estate company, and I had the good fortune of being mentored by him in a lot of different ways. And at one point in my real estate career, early on, I've been in the real estate business really since I was 20 years old. And early in my career, I think I was kind of floundering. I really didn't know what I was doing. And I think Bruce saw something in me. I don't know what it was, but I think he kind of said, hey, look, this guy might have some potential. And he shared with me a book that I read often. And it's by a gentleman called Og Mandino. And the book is The Greatest Salesman in the World, Part 2. Now, the first Greatest Salesman in the World was an insanely successful book. I mean, Michael Jackson allegedly read it. It kind of helped him jumpstart his career. I mean, people all the way to prison inmates would keep it under their pillow in prison, as it said. So, I mean, it has helped people from lost people that are in jail to very, very successful people like Michael Jackson. And basically, this book has 10 scrolls. It kind of tells a story, and it teaches business lessons and life lessons through allegory and story. Now, there's 10 of these scrolls, and I want to just talk about a few of them that I think I've tried to use to guide my life, and hopefully these will help you also. One of the scrolls says, "Never again will I pity or belittle myself." And what's very interesting about this scroll is that, teaching a lot of real estate classes, I hear people look at me and they sign up for the classes and look me dead in the eye and say, I was never a good student. I was never a good test taker. We do these 2-day crash courses where people will come to me and they'll say, hey, I got my test on Monday. I really hope I do well. I always do poorly on tests. And it's funny, like the more often we say these things to each other or to ourselves even, the more likely they are to become true. It's funny how if I were to come to you and say, and look you dead in the eye and say, money comes easily to me. Money comes frequently to me. You would kind of look at me and say, man, you're kind of an egotistical guy. But if I looked you dead in the eye and said, hey, I've never really been good with my money, or I've always kind of struggled with money, that somehow is more acceptable than, hey, money comes frequently and easy to me. I can make money. You would look at me and say, you seem seem a little arrogant, man. I mean, you should tone it down a little bit. And it's funny how it's okay in society to say negative things about ourselves, but if you say positive things about yourself, people look at you kind of sideways. Another great part of this scroll that I absolutely try to emulate and live my life by is it says, never again will I greet the dawn without a map. Every morning I try to have a to-do list for the day, and in that to-do list, I try to have the 3 or 4 things that, every day I want to make time for. Physical activity, physical exercise. I want to take some time and close my eyes and think for a little bit to myself. Now, I don't always make the time to do those things, but I think starting the day with a to-do list or a punch list of the stuff that you want to get done is useful. Another one of the scrolls says, always will I examine the deeds of the prior day. So before I go to bed, I keep a little sketchbook in my bag at all times. And in that sketchbook, I try to write down everything that I did that day. And if you realize how much time you waste throughout the day, it becomes pretty apparent that all of us, myself included, could have been more productive through the day. Another one of the scrolls, which I'll leave you with, I don't want this podcast to be too long, but another one of the scrolls says, always will I bathe my days in the golden glow of enthusiasm. So being enthusiastic and giving it 100% in everything that you do I think is a really useful attitude to have, not just in our real estate business, but just in anything. And people notice when you go the extra mile, people notice. In fact, I was just talking to the super talented gentleman that handles a lot of the audio for my podcast, and just watching him adjust the levels of the background music, watching him run the voice through compressors to make sure that I sound better than I really do, frankly, it's enthusiasm, right? It makes you want to work with that person more. It makes you want to do better on your end too. So I would highly recommend that you pick up this book, The Greatest Salesman of the World, Part 1 and Part 2. In fact, I wanted to get it, as I thought about this podcast, I actually wanted to get copies of this book for friends of mine for Christmas. And I'm looking here on Amazon right now, and man, this book's been out of print for, several decades, but it's expensive. I mean, give me a second. I'm just going to, Greatest Salesman in the World. I'm going to look it up here on Amazon again. I did it before I started this podcast. Actually, it's not that bad. Like $7. I mean, trust me, it's the cheapest. Well, it's $7 for the Kindle on Amazon. The hardcover is $66. They have a paperback for $7. I would highly recommend that you either on your iBooks or your Kindle, or get the old-fashioned book, but these books are life-changing. At least it changed my life, and I have Bruce Mulhern to thank for this, because teaching lessons through allegory and story are very, very, very powerful ways to train someone, to teach someone something. And I'd highly recommend that you pick up The Greatest Salesman of the World Part 2 or the original one. They're both equally powerful, and a lot of nuggets of information and inspiration are in those two books. So I'm not sure where you're listening to this podcast, but if you're watching it on YouTube, don't forget to share this video, like and subscribe to the channel. Trying to put out content on a daily basis here for you guys and bring as much value as possible. If you're listening to this on iTunes or some other streaming service, make sure that you watch out for our next podcast, and we'll catch you on the next one.